in with Claude, and she says, Lou and I were going through a rough patch. So this sounds to me like she and Lou were kind of on the skids, and so she went and found another person.
Yeah, that's kind of how it comes across. We'll see a flashback that shows that they were still hanging out. They were working like bingo parlors or whatever. They've been in each other's life for a long time. So whether it was a rough patch while they were working New Jersey bingo parlors, that sounds rough to me. Or if that was an indication of their romantic relationship, it's nebulous by design, but they have the kind of chemistry that feels like ex-lovers that are working together on a new job.
I don't know. I think people read that in there because it's females. I didn't think that of Clooney and Pitts.
No, I saw the same thing in Rogue One, and you guys gave me shit for seeing it there between two guys, and I just saw the same thing here with two women, and I didn't see it until they said the words rough patch.
And the thing is, I don't care either way. It's just, okay, well, let's make the hot chicks lesbians. That's just such a typical thing in Hollywood.
If you're going to do that, you wouldn't make Kate Blanchett one of them.
Are you still dissing her?
Yes, I'm still dissing her.
You've gone back and forth on her. Sometimes you're on the record saying, I really like her. And the other times, The Aviator. I don't even know where you stand anymore.
She was great in Ragnarok.
Yeah, exactly.
She's the best part of this film.
She's a lot of fun here. I wish there was more for her to do, and I'm going to say that about just about every other character.
Everyone.
Yeah. The problem here is not that this cast isn't every bit the equal of Clooney's Oceans cast. They got the same moxie. They have the same number of Oscars. They are just as worthy, but they aren't featured as well. The heist is not as intricate, and they don't get any good lines.
No.
They don't get any good repartee.
This is not a funny movie. At least that first Ocean's 11, that is a fun time. This?
Yes.
I laughed once, and that's when James Corden ends up showing up. Like, it's not even with this cast of females. And Mindy Kaling, like, I loved her on The Office. She was hilarious on that show. This crew, there's no character or personality to them. I feel like they are all types. Kate is all about style and cool. Like, she's my favorite character here, but I couldn't tell you what her actual character is.
I had real trouble getting names for most of the characters in this. I was writing down for the sub-characters like Aquafina, I just kept writing down Pickpocket. And I didn't recognize Rihanna under all the dreads and everything, but I did catch her name being Nineball, very memorable. But yeah, in Ocean's 11, everybody had their moment. I don't feel that's the case here. I feel this is Sandra Bullock, Anne Hathaway, and the rest. Kate Blanchett is actually second billed above Anne Hathaway, but I don't feel she is utilized as well.
Even the drama in the group isn't here. I think about that Ocean's 11. Can we trust Clooney? Because now this is personal with Tess and Andy Garcia's character and Matt Damon. He kind of is iffy and he has to be told to, to get on board with this. I just don't feel like there's any conflict with this group. And there's no Andy Garcia in this film. That's the other problem. There is no antagonist for them to work against.
There is an Andy Garcia here. He just doesn't get any screen time. But I believe Sandra Bullock's lover...
That's like if Tess was a bad guy.
Early on, there's one scene where she approaches him in an art gallery with a shiv, but he is not a part of this movie for the rest of it. He has maybe all of 5 minutes of screen time, and certainly Andy Garcia got more than that in Ocean's 11.
Yeah, he's never doing anything to try to unravel this plot like Garcia is. He knows Ocean's up to something. He's trying to stop them. No one's trying to stop him here.
No, the only thing we have close to that is when James Corden comes in way too late.
Yeah, in the third act.
I thought for sure when we saw Debbie go to Claude with that shiv made out of a toothbrush. I liked that little touch and that it was actually sharp enough to cut threads off a button, but I thought they were going to replay part one, the way Clooney went back to Julia Roberts and ended up winning him back. But here, no, it's the opposite. She's out for revenge. So they're turning an expectation on that one.
Yeah, I would say they're hitting those same beats, but okay.
But I do have to ask this. Like you said, Jacob, I would classify the three previous Ocean films, or all four really, as comedies. What would this one be classified as? Drama?
Crime film?
No, it's a comedy that's not very funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a comedy that's not very sharp with its wit.
The shiv is sharper than the script.
Its targets are very easy. Anne Hathaway as a starlet, and they're going to steal her necklace. Exploiting the fashion industry, she already did this a decade ago in Devil Wears Prada. I don't know what she hopes to do by returning to it. This is not going to dig any deeper. And they certainly don't have any Meryl Streep-sized roles for villains here. So that's what they kind of needed to do. They are going to ultimately show that Anne Hathaway is part of the team, but they could have made Daphne more of the Andy Garcia and had her more deserving of being ripped off. But what they're ripping off isn't even hers.
But what Anne Hathaway said she was doing in this film is making fun more of the celebutante culture and ditzy actresses. She said the difference between her and her character is her character would be her if she thought fame was real. And in real life, she thinks fame is this illusion that doesn't really exist. And she was trying to make fun of her early reputation as an actress when she got a really bitchy reputation early on in her career, and she was kind of making fun of that, not the fashion industry. The fact that the fashion industry is involved, truthfully, it makes me wish that we'd switched ourselves out with female casts so Marjorie could sit here, because she would have gotten a lot more out of the cameos in this movie than I did. I had to look all these people up.
I mean, I watched Project Runway. I didn't see no Michael Kors here, but what's her name that's married to Seal shows up at one point.
Heidi Klum. I knew Heidi Klum. Kardashians, everyone knows. And certainly Anna Wintour is, you know, she was the character that Meryl Streep based her character on in Devil Wears Prada.
I had no idea who Heidi Klum was. I had no idea who... I thought she might have been an antagonist. I like watching this movie, getting none of it. I got Serena Williams because they said Serena Williams.
Well, be that as it may, I just don't think you need to know anything about the fashion industry to go as deep as these people do. It's just surface and superficial, and the jokes aren't really that sharp.
There's nothing funny about the fashion industry here. Like, if you're really into it, you're getting a bunch of inside jokes. It's like, no, Rose made some stewardess outfits, and that's her fashion, and so she's washed up because it's really ugly. Ha ha.
Yeah, let's talk about the plot, because that's where I think they should be focusing on, is what is this heist? The gimmick is... The lie is, we'll find out in the end, it's not true. The lie is they're not ripping off a place, they're ripping off a person in a place. They're only focused on one set of jewels that are going to be on the neck of Daphne Kluger, this Hollywood starlet who we don't like very much because she seems vacuous. And so we don't mind that she's going to take this hit.
Unfortunately, I find Anne Hathaway to be so likable in everything. She's very likable here.
Yeah, agreed. And ultimately, we are to like her. She will be the 8th member. That was spoiled for me by a still photograph. I was doing the math. I'm like, she must be the 8th because I saw that photo of them all sitting around somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't see that photo, and I'm just constantly doing math. At one point, they call in Nineball's sister. I'm like, she's the 8th! Oh, wait, no, she's gone again. Is that the 8th?
What they're exploiting here is how do you court a Hollywood starlet? How are you going to manipulate her so that she ends up handing you over these jewels? Or how does she even end up wearing these jewels? You start with the fashion designer, and that means going to Helena Bonham Carter,
who I haven't seen in a long time. When I think of her, I think specifically of Fight Club, and if I'm in a less flattering mood, I think of Planet of the Apes. But here's something else I think this film doesn't do as well as Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11, the crew had all worked together. Pitt and Clooney knew these guys, and they had, with the exception of Linus, and they worked with Linus's father, and they made a big plot point of Linus being the outsider. But here, they're approaching a fashion designer they don't know and hoping immediately she'll go along with grand larceny to pay off her tax debt, and she does.
This is the biggest gimme for the film. And this is a film that has like magic glasses that can scan anything. The fact that, they are able to get a fashion designer that is not involved in their group. Okay, she's in a lot of debt. Maybe you could convince her, hey, you'll get a few million off of this. But the fact that they're able to get her to actually have Daphne as a client, okay, you're making me have to buy in a lot here, because Rose does not have that charm as if like Brad Pitt came in and tried to get this client. It's just, she's playing Helena Bonham Carter at this point. She's just herself, just crazy Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, and I think that would have been something to exploit, is maybe people are doing it for different reasons, and maybe they aren't going to go through with it. I think this movie's plot is so simplistic that it really needed more nuance. It really needed more plots within plots, and that might have been something to really play with. At one point, Helena Bonham Carter almost refuses the piece of necklace at the end. You get the sense that maybe she doesn't want to be a part of this, but if that was a real element of her character, it goes way underexplored, and I think that this movie could have explored all these characters more.
We spent a lot of time building the team. You said, let's talk about the plot. What we're really going to talk about is how each character is introduced.
Right.
And in my mind, when we meet Constance, played by Awkwafina, she's doing 3-card Monte. And it really hit me that the old Oceans films were a game of 3-card Monte. You were constantly trying to keep your eye on where that card was, and Soderbergh fooled you almost every time, especially in Ocean's 11. You lost that card. The card wasn't even on the table anymore. He'd palmed that card and replaced it with another one. You could not win. And it made you feel great. Here, I literally feel like we're playing Go Fish because we're just getting people together. And admittedly, there are some funny moments in this. The cast is good. There are just little asides that are had that I smiled during. Like, we need a hacker. Are all hackers Russian? Are all Russians hackers? I mean, I like that little bit of, right now, since we're still talking about Russian hacking, that it's funny to me to think that they don't want a Russian hacker, but that's how they do bring in Rihanna.
To get someone that's really good at 3-card Monte, that's your criteria. And again, I smiled. I'm not laughing a whole lot in this film, but I smiled when they're in the subway and Constance steals both their watches. I was kind of, oh, okay.
I thought that was a Subway product placement.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think there are characters that I like seeing because they have good energy and they are the more funny ones, but they also usually seem to be the less necessary to what's actually being pulled off. Like, they need Helena Bonham Carter. Almost everything hinges on the fact of her landing this gig to dress this woman in the Cartier jewels. I mean, that's got to happen in order for anything else to happen. But Helena Bonham Carter is one of the least entertaining of the cast.
No, she sits around with her eyes wide open like she's high most of this film.
Eating Nutella because her runway show flopped that's it. That's what she's been given to do. And that's too bad because we know Helena Bonham Carter can do more than that. Oscar-nominated actress. She can be funny. She can be dramatic. She can do whatever the part requires. But this is a movie that's just not well written.
I'm glad she was able to pull off being a fashion designer, albeit a quirky fashion designer. To see her play something other than goth, to see her play fashion was against type in my mind for her. I know she's done period pieces, but that's just, again, I've told you what I think of her and where I think of her from. But nobody here is given enough to do. It really does kind of suck that Awkwafina as Constance, I'm still not entirely sure why you needed a pickpocket at all. The things she does feel like they could have been done by anyone on the team. The jeweler who comes in, Mindy Kaling, I'm iffy on Mindy Kaling. Sometimes I like her, sometimes I don't. I do like her here, but I don't know that she was really that necessary to the team.
She's absolutely not necessary to the team. You hire a jeweler to make the fake jewels, except they have a 3D printer. So we don't need you. I don't know why you're here at all.
She had to turn all the jewelry into other jewelry. That was her whole part of this plan. Like, get some wire cutters.
Yeah, you couldn't put it in a purse?
Yeah, that's needlessly complicated. You don't need her at all. You only need her because she's going to bring something new and interesting, and she does at least change the demographic. You look at Bullock, you look at Hathaway, you look at Blanchett, you're seeing gilded Oscar-nominated white ladies. Mindy Kaling is not up for Oscar. She's just a little bit more round and brown and a different energy. That's fun. I think you needed that, except they don't set her free. Her character seems to be that she's needing a man and that she's at home living off her mom, and the whole thing is about she's got to learn how to use Tinder to get a man.
See, and it's that's another one of the asides I really liked is when you had Constance teaching Amita to use Tinder. It goes nowhere. It is merely just an insert, but it's those little moments of camaraderie that this film has too few of where I smile broadest.
And you could make the argument a female-centric heist movie should be more about character details. Chick flicks in general, the stereotype at the very least, is that women care more about relationships and men care more about the mechanics. And so maybe a heist movie should be more about the female empowerment relationships, except even those get short shrift in this movie. I don't feel like they're there that much.
The fact that Kaling's like, oh, should I send it eggplant emoji, that's going to be real dated. I think we're going to find another emoji to represent a dick in a few years. But what I liked about Kaling in The Office is, yes, she's Indian, but she played like a dumb blonde. So it totally went against that expectation. And the fact that they just got her back here, with the overburdening mother who you got to get a husband, it takes all that energy that she brought away.
I disagree completely. I mean, it's stereotypical. It's not unique.
Yes, it's an ethnic stereotype.
But I think that Amita is a fun character in that way, and she's the only one like that. It's not like this is all four people are trying to get a guy. In fact, there's not a lot of men in this film. The interview I saw with them, one interviewer said there's no love story, and Sandra Bullock corrected them. No, there is one love story. There's one guy in here